Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this 4th of July edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, a hot one across south central Alaska today, as well as other areas across southern Alaska. Big Lake at 3 p.m., 92 degrees, while Eagle River had 90. And Willow up around 90 there with 89 degrees, and even both Kenai and Butte, 88 degrees, again, all at 3 p.m. this afternoon. In fact, even across Anchorage, temperatures ranging from anywhere from 85 to 90 degrees, and also that 80-degree plus weather extending down to the Homer area, and across much of the Kenai Peninsula, like Ski Lac Lake had 90, 91 degrees today. And in the Copper River Basin as well, temperatures mid to upper 80s with even lower to mid 80s showing up in northern Bristol Bay, Dillingham to King Salmon. On the hazardous weather graphic, this is the leftover of the, it's a continuation of the dense smoke advisory here for the western Kenai Peninsula. That's out for tonight and through tomorrow at times, especially overnight and early morning hours. Could get reduced visibilities due to smoke from the Kenai Peninsula fires. Otherwise, looking at the fire danger chart, interesting to see a couple of areas up here on the North Slope reached into the high fire danger category. There, one looks like south of the Prudhoe Bay Dead Horse area of Niwixit right in here, and then a little bit more extensive, slightly higher area there south of the Wainwright area. Otherwise, nothing here through the central interior because of the clouds and cooler conditions that have been in place there, kind of along a weakening frontal boundary there. But north of that, a little drier, a little more sunshine, higher fire danger, still some areas of extreme, but that's really nothing new for the upper Yukon Valley there around the Porcupine Yukon rivers. And then along or west of the Alaska Range here, got some extreme fire danger with areas of high extending all the way down into northeast Bristol Bay, or as I mentioned, temperatures today were in the lower to mid 80s. Toward Iliamna Lake there, and Kenai Peninsula, areas of extreme fire danger. Same thing for the Susitna Manaska Valley, on up toward the Central Alaska Range, Copper River Basin, especially in the valley area there. Areas of extreme fire danger continue to actually expand. And moving on to satellite imagery. A lot of sunshine here across the state, of course, with those temperatures rising up into the lower 90s, some areas in the 80s. That's about what you'd expect. Another mostly sunny day there for Kodiak Island, but not as warm as that all-time record-breaking high temperature of 85 you had yesterday. Cooler, actually a light east breeze there, and then you've got a huge area, low clouds just lurking off to the east there. That's going to be rolling on in overnight tonight and will slowly dissipate tomorrow there on the east side of the island. Bare conditions to the west. Otherwise, some sunshine on down the Alaska Peninsula. Looks like some breaks there near and just north of Unalaska, Nikolsky, southern Bering Sea. Lots of clouds, kind of a warm front right through here, keeping light rain, fog, and drizzle going Adak to Atka, and cloudy skies back to Shimia. Rainfall amount's not too heavy with that thing. About 0.2 of an inch falling today at Adak, and that was the heaviest rainfall amount in the state. Did have a few hundredths of an inch back through the west central interior here with this cloudiness. So you can see the flow coming southeast to northwest and takes a turn to the west here, coming over the top of the ridge, which is centered just to the south, and that pulling the moisture into the interior. And even a trough, they're about to drop down onto the Arctic coast there with some moisture, maybe kick the winds up a little bit out of the west-southwest. Otherwise, we had clouds and fog over the Pribilofs, right on up to St. Lawrence Island with some rain occurring with, I believe Gamble had a few hundredths of an inch. And again, just Indian Mountain, for example, had 200ths of an inch. So any shower activity with us is pretty light. And low clouds, fog across the Gulf right up to the southeast coast. A little clearer down there toward the south. Dixon Entrance looking good, partly to mostly sunny. Got clouds coming from the northeast here in the upper flow. So you got some passing mid and high level clouds there, otherwise not too bad. Rolling that through again, actually this area you could see some maybe possible thunderstorms tomorrow near and just north of White Pass. Otherwise there'll be another dry day down there. And for the Arctic coast, you can just see this area of clouds, east to west line there, kind of parallel to the flow. And embedded in that, every once in a while, will kind of drop down and catch the coastal areas with some fog, drizzle, and maybe kick the winds up, especially on the east side. Could see gusts tomorrow 25 to 30 on the east side or more. And definitely windier than the west side or the remainder of interior Alaska. Lots of low clouds, fog here, southeast Bering Sea, right on up along the southeast or the southwest coast here. And that means a lot of IFR for the Bering Sea for the foreseeable future. And for today, there's that warm front, kind of extends northward. Precipitation not really heavy, kind of a weak feature here. And that extends in toward the Seward Peninsula across St. Lawrence Island. They'd have a little bit of light moisture there in the Nome area. Isolated showers along this front, as I mentioned, nothing more than a few hundredths of an inch here, all the way over to the eastern border. About a tenth of an inch fell up here in some showers over the eastern north slope and north side of the Brooks Range there. And then some moisture poised to maybe clip the Arctic coast, as we'll see for tonight. Have another trough actually begins to drop down a little bit there, so that'll bring a chance of moisture into the central and west side, possibly all the way down to Wainwright, or maybe even Point Lay. Otherwise, isolated shower possible there over the Northwest Valley or along the coast. Drizzle continues, leftover areas of fog, but improving conditions actually here for the northern Bering Sea. And offshore flow coming around this high, that's going to start pushing the cloud deck here back to the southwest or to the west-southwest with even some breaks beyond that. And this warm front also edging its way westward now, and it's quite weak at that, but that's going to keep the lower flying conditions and damp conditions, also with some fog. That'll push it more toward the two islands there, Kamchatka and Kiska, and still kind of foggy, drizzly for Adak and to a lesser extent for Atka. And on Alaska, not too bad tonight. Look for possible breaks here, continuing partly, mostly cloudy. Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay, no change. Sunny, well, part of the night will be sunny here, especially farther north, the Tanana Valley on up toward the eastern Arctic coast. But it'll be dry, no change, light winds, very mild overnight low temperatures. High pressure here in the Gulf of Alaska, another one to the south, just no storminess around at all. Mostly clearing out over the Panhandle. Showers now dropping either off to the south or the southeast or way up here to the north. Some of that might slip on down tomorrow afternoon, as I mentioned, kick off a thunderstorm or two, maybe from Skagway, possibly Haines. Skagway better, just a chance at that, or that'll mostly stay in Canada. Otherwise, 70s to lower 80s for your highs. So the southeast coast, mostly sunny skies, and fog and low clouds a little less significant right along the coastline. Still carrying some smoke there for the Kenai Peninsula. Could be some areas of smoke in the interior. I haven't seen anything that's really too significant. And chance of rain, that trough here sliding eastward over the top of the upper level ridge here in that westerly flow. Keeps a little unsettled there on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. And again, those winds possibly could kick up a little bit as well out of the west or west-southwest, but dry back behind here over the northwest, partly mostly sunny. Temperatures 80s to lower 90s here across much of southern Alaska. Should start to warm up in the Tanana Valley as well. And the Bering Sea, not a lot of change. Some moisture tries to slip up and catch Unmak Island with a little bit of light rain, fog, and drizzle. Better conditions, maybe a sunbreak or two for Adak and Atka. Back into the low stuff there, and that's starting to approach Shemya. Otherwise, not too bad for the Bering, just areas low clouds and fog, and again, trying to clear out here along the southwest coast. And they'll continue into Sunday as well. May see a few breaks there toward the Pribilofs on Saturday. Otherwise, first day of the weekend looks pretty good. Northern Bering Sea here, St. Lawrence Island, partly mostly sunny, Seward Peninsula. Again, some patchy areas of smoke in the interior, otherwise light winds, and even the north slope not too bad, especially on the east side there, and still a risk of a little bit of moisture moving into the central coast. Panhandle looking really good, temperatures 70s into the maybe even mid-80s up here over the northern part of the Panhandle, but nice all the way down. Risk of a thunderstorm in the afternoon, Hyder and Stewart, and that's about it. And the low clouds and fog staying off the coast, but not the case Kodiak Island. Low clouds and fog, definitely a threat there. Smoke continues over the Kenai Peninsula, but again, highs 80s to lower 90s across all of southern Alaska. And for the overnight lows for tonight, mid to upper 50s for the southeast coast, mid 50s North Gulf Coast, Copper River Basin, 55 to 62 south central Alaska. Really mild here for Bristol Bay as well, lows in the lower 60s, upper 50s, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, Kuskokwim Valley, mid 50s. Interior there about mid to upper 50s as well. Lower 40s along the Arctic coast with the north slope, some areas staying in the 50s. And out west, mid-40s there for the Bering Sea as well as the Aleutians. Highs tomorrow, call it 80 to 85 to, or actually 85 to 93, say for the Susitna Valley, Matanuska Valley, Copper River Basin, even the Kenai Peninsula. 80 to 85, king salmon may reach 87 degrees tomorrow, and temperatures warming up here in the upper Tanana Valley or central interior eastward, back into the 70s and lower 80s, 50s to lower 60s on the Arctic coast, and the North Slope could see some 70s there. Like Arctic Village of Brooks Range could have a high of 71 tomorrow, 62 for Kotzebue and Nome, but only 48 for Gamble, 56 St. Paul, a little bit of sun, you could see 64 for Macoriac. And then your overnight lows for Saturday morning, really mild here, mid-60s, upper 50s to mid-60s over Bristol Bay like a king salmon, right up into the Kuskokwim Valley, and lows, again, upper 50s to lower 60s, south central Alaska, near 60 or a little below for the Tanana Valley areas, and near 60 for the upper Yukon Valley, Panhandle in the 40s to, or in the 50s. That'll be followed by your highs on Saturday here, again into the mid 80s, could see 86, 87, 88 in some of the warmer locations, but everywhere else in the 70s, even out along the coast, mid 70s, Sitka, 75, Yakutat, and again 85 to 93 here, Susitna Valley, now including the Kuskokwim Valley, mid 80s, central interior, lower 80s for the Kobuk, Koyukuk, and upper Yukon valleys.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving into flying weather, big area of mostly IFR out here over the Bering Sea, the Aleutians to the part of the Alaska Peninsula, and then that extends north across St. Lawrence Island, just grazing Nunivak Island there, and looks like it gets into the Nome area and a little to the east actually, then up through the Bering Strait, northwest coast, and up and along, or just off the Arctic coast, VFR in the interior all the way down to Bristol Bay and for a certain distance there west of Kuskokwim Bay. And then we've got VFR once again, Kodiak Island here right on up into the Copper River Basin. Could be some marginal stuff possibly there along the mountains and Panhandle. VFR, that continues as well in the afternoon. VFR the entire day for the southeast coast, all of the interior here, VFR. Until you get out to the Arctic coast, and that's where you have the best chance of picking up some IFR. Looks like marginal will be right along the coastline there, but the IFR might hit Point Barrow, but stay north of everywhere else. And then, of course, IFR back down, and really not much change over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians on up to the Alaska Peninsula. But you can see here, looks like IFR creeping up on the east side of Kodiak Island during the afternoon. And then for Saturday morning, that continues to increase there. Looks like more widespread IFR with that huge area of low clouds, stratus, and probably areas of fog as well, drift westward. Otherwise, VFR, interior Alaska, on up to the Arctic coast. And same pattern here through the Strait and down across the Aleutians and the Bering Sea. Just expect IFR. And the Panhandle, no change, marginal VFR right along the coast, or maybe a shade eastward there, but that'll should retreat back mostly in the afternoon, and VFR conditions once again, and up over the interior. VFR, no change in the Arctic coast. Looks like the IFR maybe a shade farther to the north. Otherwise, St. Lawrence Island might go marginal on Saturday afternoon. Otherwise, not much change for the Bering Sea, Aleutians, or the Alaska Peninsula. Kodiak Island in the afternoon, marginal VFR. For the passes tomorrow, looking pretty good. Anatuvik and Adigan back to VFR. Either approach both passes, Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR once again. Rainy, same forecast, windy, VFR. Isabel also looking good with VFR flying, and Mentasta wide open, ceiling visibility is unlimited with VFR for Tanita. And Portage, same forecast, VFR at least for one more day. And Chilcoot and White, good VFR. Looking at the freezing levels, 14,000 foot freezing level, right over south central Alaska, actually from the Alaska range here. And that's almost matches up with the upper level high center there, and really warm air mass here covering really all of the state as well. Falling back to about 10,000 feet there for the Arctic coast with that west-northwest jet just to your north, 10,000 over the Panhandle. 10,000 here, even over the western Bering Sea. You got to get out to the Komodorskis just to get down to the 8,000 foot level. Icing, really not much at all here. A very weak area, or a very small area with a very slight chance of anything considerable in the way of moderate rime icing. More likely just some areas of light out here, only affecting Amchitka and Kiska. Icing free everywhere else, and then kind of a disturbance skirting the eastern Arctic coast there. That could maybe produce some icing there, but that would be above 9,000 feet. Jet stream, there's that upper level high I just spoke of there, and it's kind of bulging or ridging up toward the northwest coast there as this trough cuts off to the east, and good offshore flow for the Panhandle. And southeasterly is about 70 here, coming across the eastern Aleutians on up to west of the Bering Strait. 9,000 feet, 5 to 15 knot winds here, well, actually 5 to 10 here across southern Alaska, Kodiak Island, into the Gulf. 10 knots, 5 to 10, or 5 to maybe 15 down here toward the Dixon entrance area. But pretty light winds, then kicking up a little bit here, 25 to 30 knots out of the east-southeast from the western Alaska Peninsula to about Adak-Atka, falling back to 15. 15 knot winds here, and could be near 40 knots along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. 3,000 feet, called 20 to 25 along the eastern coast up there. Otherwise, it's 5 to 15 over the interior. And 15 knot winds, Alaska Peninsula, Aleutians, 10 to 15 knot winds, even lighter here for the Gulf of Alaska. As a result, no turbulence expected anywhere in the state tomorrow. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Measuring the cosmos. Hey there, stargazers. I'm Dean Regas, astronomer for the Cincinnati Observatory.
And I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Pla Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida. We're here to help you find your way around the sky tonight. Hey Dean, humor me. If you want to describe your height, what unit of measure would you use?
Feet and inches.
Okay, and if we wanted to measure the distance to the moon, what would we use?
I could use feet and inches, but miles makes a lot more sense.
Okay, how about the distance to stars?
We use light years. Distances in space are so astronomical that it's hard to wrap our brains around them. So we created new units of measure to take us around the solar system and through interstellar space.
So let's take you to the moon, Jupiter, Saturn, and beyond. Okay. We have our sky set up for the night of Thursday, July 11th at 10:30 p.m. facing south. The moon is in its waxing gibbous phase, meaning it will soon be a full moon.
Every day the moon will shift farther to the east. Here's the moon on July 12th and July 13th. Let's fly up there and take our tape measures with us. On average, the moon is about 239,000 miles from the Earth. We can find out the precise distance to the moon anytime by bouncing lasers off the reflectors set up by the Apollo astronauts.
Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and company took 3 days to fly the 239,000 miles to the moon and 3 days to fly back.
Back on Earth, what's that bright light next to the moon on July 13th?
That is the giant planet Jupiter, and it's relatively close to us right now.
Relatively close. It may look like it's close to the moon, but it is much, much farther. While the moon is about 239,000 miles away, Jupiter is a whopping 409 million miles away.
As the night goes on and we get closer to 11:30 p.m., everything has shifted to the right, and another planet is getting higher in the sky. This is Saturn.
Saturn is just the most amazing sight to see in a telescope. You can see the planet, the rings, the shadow of the rings, the moons.
Calm down, Dean. I know Saturn's your favorite planet, but let's do some measuring here. This week, Saturn is about 837 million miles away. Now that number is hard to wrap our brains around, so when we're talking about distances in the solar system, astronomers use a different unit of measure, the astronomical unit, or AU. 1 AU is the average distance between the Sun and Earth. So we're about 1 AU from the Sun. In miles, it's about 93 million miles.
Since Saturn is about 837 million miles away, it's also about 9 AUs from us. AUs work great within the solar system. For example, we could say Jupiter is about 5 AUs from the Sun, Neptune is about 30 AUs from the Sun, and Voyager 1, our farthest flung spacecraft, is a whopping 120 AUs from the Sun.
Now, what about that other star, the red one to the right of Jupiter?
That's the star Antares in the constellation Scorpius the Scorpion. Red giant stars like Antares are humongous and unbelievably far away.
Let's close in on Antares and measure its size and distance.
Antares is about 3.6 quadrillion miles from Earth, or 39 million AUs. We can measure the distance to Antares in millimeters if we wanted to, but those numbers lose all meaning for us.
Astronomers use light years as their unit of choice for measuring interstellar space. A light year is the distance light travels in a year, roughly 5.8 trillion miles. Therefore, Antares is a whopping 620 light years from Earth.
It's by no means the farthest star you can see with the naked eye. That honor most likely goes to Dehne, the tail star of Cygnus the Swan.
Deneb is over 3,000 light years away. That means the light you see left Deneb around 1000 BC.
So, see the moon at 239,000 miles away.
Saturn from 9 AUs away.
And Antares at 620 light years away.
Keep looking up.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back to looking at today's sea ice analysis. No big changes from what we had yesterday, and that's the forecast for the next 5 days. No big changes in what you see right here. Moving on to coastal water forecast, southeast coast, northwest 15, the entire stretch of the coastline. Seas 4 to 5 feet, light northwesterly central southern inside waters, seas up 2 feet, give or take. And northern Lynn Canal, northerlies at 15 with 3-foot seas. Outlook for Saturday, no change up here for northern Lynn Canal, north 15, seas 3 feet. Also no change here for the central southern inside waters, northwest breeze or barely a breeze at 10 knots with 2-foot seas. And northwest here, 15 to 20 knots on the south coast and just flat out 20 knots out of the northwest up along the north coast with seas 5 to 6 feet. Prince William Sound, light southwest, 10 knots for the day tomorrow, 2-foot seas. West-southwest 15 for the North Gulf Coast, seas down there 3 to 4 feet as well. And the Barren Islands really laid down, west at 10, same thing for Kamishak Bay, and those seas even in these areas down to 2 feet. And Cook Inlet, southwest at 10 in the afternoon, light and variable otherwise, and seas at 10 feet. Outlook for Saturday, southwest 10, again, mostly in the afternoon to early evening for Cook Inlet. That'll extend it all the way down to Kamishak Bay. Those seas stay down around 2 feet. And 15 out of the southwest for the Barren Islands. North Gulf Coast, westerlies 15 here for the western part of the zone, and then west 20 knots there, so picking up a little bit for the area around Middleton Island. Prince William Sound, though, staying light west at 10. Kodiak Island, northeast, 10 knots, light winds all around there, all the way down the south side of the Alaska Peninsula to Cape Sarachev, northeast 10, seas 2 to 5 feet. And Bering Sea side of the peninsula, not much different. Light northeast winds there, all the way into Bristol Bay, no more than 10 knots with seas at 2 feet. Checking out Saturday, pick it up a little on the winds here, a little more of a breeze, southeast 15 on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. It doesn't affect the seas much, staying at 2 feet. West at 10, Bristol Bay, 2-foot seas, and now 20-knot winds. About the only significant change here occurring on the Pacific side of the peninsula from Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, east 20 knots, variable at 10 here for the area from Castle Cape up to Kodiak Island, except Shelikof Strait in the afternoon, southwest 15. Fox Islands, east-northeast, 15 to 20 knots tomorrow. Seas not too bad. Central Aleutians, east at 20, seas 6 to 10 feet. And those 20-knot winds out to about Amchitka, then north 15 for the western zone. Saturday, east at 20 for the western zone out there in the Aleutians. Otherwise, about 15 here from Kiska over toward Adak, and then the Adak-Atka zones, northeast at 20 with 8-foot seas. And for the Fox Islands, east winds 20 knots, seas 4 to 8 feet. And for the southwest coast, northeast 20 knots. That extends all the way out to St. Matthew Island. And that's going to be help clearing the skies out, pushing a low cloud and fog deck farther off to the west and southwest. North to northeast 10 to 15, Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, north 15 for the Pribilofs. And for Norton Sound on Saturday, northeast 15, same thing, St. Matthew Island, and west at 15 now, blowing in toward Kuskokwim Bay, south of Nunivak Island, otherwise northeast 20, Yukon Delta coast of St. Matthew Island, northwest at 10 for the Pribilofs. Beaufort Sea, central and east side here, west winds 15 knots, seas 3 to 5 feet. Southwest 20, a little breezier on the west side for seas at 5 feet, and then we've got 20 knot winds down to Cape Thompson, south 15 there from Cape Thompson to Wales. Those get even lighter on Saturday here from Wales up to Cape Thompson, but then from there, got 20 knot winds, western Arctic coast, turn south 15 on the central coast and back to west 15, increasing to 20 knots as you get over toward Demarcation Point, seas 3 to 4 feet. And for tonight, a lot of fair skies, areas of smoke, Kenai Peninsula, the advisory still continuing for the western peninsula, and that could reduce visibilities at times, and otherwise pretty good here. Mild overnight low, some areas staying in the lower 60s and drying out. Clouds trying to decrease here over the central interior, and same thing for the Panhandle. Those showers get even farther away. And then for Friday, mostly sunny, warm, 70s and 80s, Panhandle, 80s to lower 90s, southern Alaska warming up in the Tanana Valley. And then the outlook for Saturday, another sunny, hot day here across southern Alaska, now mid-80s, all the way up into the Kobuk-Koyukuk Valley areas and upper Yukon Valley, and mid-80s over the Panhandle. And out west, cooler, cloudier, maybe drizzlier as well with lower flying conditions. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.